Ralph Kurtyka with Brightwood Real Estate Education. Let's talk about some environmental issues in real estate. Might be a couple of exam points in this little discussion, so pay close attention. Speaking of exam issues, this might be one. Under whose purview do most environmental issues fall, especially big-time environmental issues? Well, the answer to the question is the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. Now, disclosure requirements regarding environmental issues will vary based on state law. Some disclosures are required by federal law. Other disclosures are required by state law, or how the disclosure is made can vary based upon state laws. So what's our job? Real estate professionals should have a working understanding of environmental issues and disclosure obligations that are pertinent to your state or the area that you work with. We should be familiar with any particular environmental issues that are common to the area in which we work. And there might be certain neighborhoods. I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Minneapolis-St. Paul, there's some known environmental issues that are common to certain neighborhoods. One neighborhood has a higher level of asbestos in the soil than other ones, and other ones have a chemical plume from chemical dumps long gone by, things like that. Our job is to be aware of what those environmental issues are in the areas that we're working. We should also look for signs of contamination and other issues. Now, we don't have to be highly trained in this. All we have to do is kind of use our common sense. If we see barrels of some kind of chemical that have a toxic sign on them, well, obviously, or if we see saturated soil, or anything that just kind of looks out of place, our job is to inform and recommend further investigation. The house looks like it was built prior to 1978, all right? If you're concerned about lead-based paint, I highly recommend that you get a professional to look at this property, maybe get testing done. Notice how it says inform and recommend, but never advise. So our job as real estate professionals is to know how to get a problem solved, but not necessarily tell people exactly how to solve the problem. Let's use mold for an example. Wow, smells like mold. I'm not positive it's mold, but it sure smells musty. I suggest you have a professional or licensed mold inspector come in here and check that out. Versus me saying, well, here's what you ought to do. First of all, you ought to rip open the walls and clean up the mold and this, that, and the other thing. I'm going to stop short of that. I'm just going to say, hey, I refer this problem to a professional. You should have a professional in that area investigate this potential environmental issue. So the thing about environmental issues, gang, is of course they are material facts, and so that must be disclosed. So our job is, if we suspect an environmental issue, then we must disclose it. And in certain cases, you might have a seller that believes it's not an issue, or it's been cured, or it's been removed, and therefore they don't want us to disclose it. Remember, if we suspect a material fact, we are bound by law to disclose it, even if the seller disagrees with that disclosure. If a seller wants you to withhold material facts and don't tell people, you can't take that listing. Or you explain to the seller, I can't do that. Recommend the buyer have the property inspected, regardless if you think there's an environmental issue or not. It's always important that we recommend buyers hire a home inspector to look at the property. And if we do suspect a particular environmental issue, then we recommend the buyer have a professional inspector of that nature, a mold inspector, like I said before, look at the property. A high level of contamination may stop a deal, it may stop a sale. A high level of contamination may need to have that hazard removed or at least remediated prior to the sale of the property.